Homicide 13. Number 13.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Turkey,
Here.
Graves,
Here.
Now, and Walker.
Here.
We'll say the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone can take a moment of silence if they like. Take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to look over the previous meeting's minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. Katie, would you help us announce visitors?
In the back, we have Robert Rawlings, Darren Broadfoot, and Danielle Lauder. We also have on the left over here, Greg Highbarger and John Dudek. Okay, cool. We have Jamie Albertson and Romy Ewa. I'm sorry. Assistant Chief Florian Hammer back there, and I'm so sorry I didn't catch your all's names or who you're with.
We're Paul Bill with Morton Buildings.
Yes, all Phil and Morton Buildings.
There was no public comment sent in, so we'll move on to new business, HD architecture presentation.
And if you're fine with this, we were gonna step out while these guys did their thing.
Okay.
Take turns. So we're not leaving. We'll come back. We're just gonna
Given we promised we were gonna let everybody know when we finish. Oh, they already decided everything. I don't know. Where would you like us?
Yeah, anywhere.
Anyway,
We'll stand here. So thank you for allowing us to come tonight. We don't have a lot of fancy technology presentation, didn't get a whole lot put together. You had the presentation or the response to the RFQ that you guys sent out. So we wanted to come tonight, see if you put a hand, a face with a name. So I am Greg Highbarger. I am the H of HD architecture.
And
This
I'm the D of HD architecture.
John is the D. So I've got over 30 plus years. John has 20 plus years. So our firm is based upon the fact that two guys you're looking at right now are the two guys that handle all of it. We work on the projects from beginning to end. And John and I are intimately involved from beginning to end. We don't pass it off to others. We enjoy that part of it. We enjoy staying close to our projects, close to our clients. And we found that that breeds the success that we've enjoyed.
Yeah, for us, it's always about just relationships, relationships with our clients and,
John and I have spent about 70% of the work we do is in healthcare or health related projects. And they're all small niche type markets. A lot of the work that we do is evolved around pre-engineered metal buildings. No offense to my friends at Morton. So we feel like this project fits right into our sweet spot. And it's the kind of work that we do and we do well. And you can tell from the RFP that we have been doing a lot of smaller projects 13 different states right now, doing some, a national retail account that is a pre-engineered metal building, goes around in small town USA. So we feel like we've got a pretty good handle on a lot of the construction market and things involved that are important to your particular project and how it might move forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you would have about us or our experience or.
And I just would kind of piggybacking a little bit on Greg's experience. I've personally been involved with the hospital here in Sedalia for probably almost about 15 years. And in that time frame, just to, kind of underscore a little bit, I mean, for me, it's a personal kind of feeling. I've spent time here. My daughter used to ride horses at the state fair, over at the fairgrounds and stuff when she was in 4-H, when she was this big, and now she's this big and in college and doing all those college things. But we focus a lot on relationships with our clients, and to do so at the end of the day, for us, it's what you see is what you get with us. And we're hardworking. We listen a lot to our clients. We offer suggestions. We help guide the process with our clients. And so, I would be remiss if I just, I wouldn't say, that, I really would like to work on this project with you guys. I think it could be a really special project for the community. So if there's any questions, I just want to make sure I say that, because I couldn't live with myself if I just didn't say something about just, how much I enjoy it. And Steve can attest to it as well. So
I would ask, within adjoining counties, any builders or buildings that you've done that we can take a peek at? Builders we can talk with?
Well, so I've worked with Septagon.
Okay.
So I've done a number of projects locally here with the hospital. So remodels. I actually was the architect on the medical office building over off of Winchester and 10th Street. Also just helped out, with the new East Side Clinic there for the hospital as well. A little bit out beyond that, currently working on a small dermatology clinic in Warrensburg. Hasn't started yet, so they haven't selected a general contractor yet, but could, once it gets going, I could be more than happy to share that. Sure.
What about your EMS building?
So, go ahead.
I think the most recent one is in the response we did with Children's Mercy. That building is 40 feet by 200 feet, 10 bay. They do not have living quarters in there, but because it's Children's Mercy, their ambulances are on steroids. Those are some pretty large vehicles. And they had a lot of accommodations specific for them. And it's got a lot of security features associated with the building based on where it's located. So that's the most recent example. I did complete, which we didn't put in there. I didn't have a picture of it many years ago. I did one this was in just north of Burlington, Kansas, in Beto Junction, Coffee County. And that particular one, that is a satellite facility where the ambulances come, because they're closer to 35 at that point, I-35. And so when the weather is bad, they kind of move themselves closer to and be available if there's a need along that corridor. So that one has living accommodations, office space, and then that's 2 bays for ambulances on that one.
And then we've done some ambulance, facilities that are, kind of aligned or, connected to hospitals as well. So,
Yeah.
So do you help with the contractor selection?
we can, yeah, we have. So, depending upon what, what's asked as far as, what you have to do as far as delivery method, if you have to go out, solicit multiple bids based upon how the funding source is, we've been involved on projects on that selection and interview process of the contractors. In fact, I've helped put together sort of a matrix, like a scoring matrix that can be utilized, during the selection process so that you can analyze things, price, schedule, an interview, and, any other factors that we need to kind of, take under consideration in making that selection. it also could be depending upon, the particular delivery method as well. So, if, when we want to engage with a contractor early on in the process, go through that solicitation and kind of bring them in as more of a construction manager so that they can help manage the budget along the course of the design project. That's a possibility as well. A little bit is just not knowing, what's the requirement for you all as a district to say, can you bring that on early, or do you have to we go through more of a traditional process where we could go through and do all of the design work, put out the bid documents, then solicit bids from, a select list of, contractors, and then make a selection from that as well. That's a possibility.
There's a lot of sticker shock, and after it came out of the pandemic, as we all know, supply chain and construction costs increased. And so we've had a lot of clients, we've brought in that construction source early to help with schedule and cost containment. Look at different options in order to maximize value.
Yeah, construction costs are just such a wild variable, and sometimes, the possibility of bringing somebody on board early can help, manage and mitigate those, gotchas later on down the road, so we can create best value.
Fee structure,
Typically we just do like a lump sum, we can kind of work with you guys on, what that delivery is,
We don't really do on a percentage of the cost of construction, because
No.
construction goes up, that's not fair to you guys. So we try to maintain more of a, what's it take for us to provide the service that you need to get the project, as we tailor it to the individual project, but we do try to go on a lump sum. Just because an hourly never really works out for either one of us, so that's kind of been our approach to it.
and we've stopped years ago from doing the percentage of construction costs. Once the pandemic hit and everything went crazy from a construction cost standpoint, we couldn't be in a room and sit across the table from a client and try to justify this year your fee is this much more compared to last year, when the project's the same, the work hasn't changed any for us. And so the only things that we've had to try to absorb is just, like everybody, the rising costs of doing business, healthcare costs, and, so on and so forth, the normal stuff.
Any other questions?
Comments, criticisms? Well, again, thank you guys for the opportunity to say hi, and we'll step out so the others can come in now.
We'll tag in the next one. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Appreciate
You
it.
bet, thank you.
Appreciate y'all's time.
KRJ. No, KRJ.
Yeah. Is that who's next?
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh.
Alright. So different. There you go. I just printed it out.
Basically, it's the presentation, so missed something.
Thank you. Alright. So we are with KRJ. I am Romy Elkin. I'm the president. And the, there we go. It's not gonna be magic. Thanks. And this is Jamie Alverson, and he is our project architect. So we just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about our experience with ambulance districts throughout Missouri. Then just a little bit about our team and our process. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, technical. Are we too far away from the screen?
Oh, wait, you just.
It could be operator here. All right. So these are the topics we're gonna talk about. Just a little bit as our firm background and our history, our project experience, and then our project approach. Our firm was started in 1956. by 3 classmates from WashU in St. Louis in 1987. The second generation took over along with his wife. And then in the 2000s through the 2010s, Jamie and I both joined, as well as the 2 other firm partners, my husband, Tim, and Michael Liss. And in 2019, I took over as president. Our project experience includes ambulance districts, of course. We are currently working on a community health center. We work with a lot of public school districts, some community colleges. We have some religious facility clients, and then some other random community buildings like for non-for-profits. We did do the Johnson County Ambulance District facility a few years ago, their headquarters and training facility, which also included their crew quarters, 5 ambulance bays. The building was about 16,000 square feet. It included a backup generator. It was wood construction.
Right, it was an all wood construction, even including the vehicle bay.
And in this building, there were a lot of meetings talking about public versus private spaces because it is such a well-visited building, of course, because it's the headquarters and training, but also maintaining the private aspects of it as far as where the crew is utilizing the space and then where the district offices are.
The crew quarters here were true bedrooms. This was not just a bunkhouse. It was people had private space, and they knew on a regular shift that they would have times where they would be spending the night in clothing and stuff. So they had a personal touch to it.
And then in St. Francis County, south of St. Louis, we did a much smaller house for them, which included 2 pull-through ambulance bays. It was about 2,700 square feet, and there was a living room, kitchen, restrooms. There was a water tank, a backup generator. And this one was really an economic solution to their needs of being able to service the area better. The building was also wood framed. There were no bedrooms or bunk rooms in this house. I believe their shifts were just 12-hour shifts, so they weren't sleeping there. Okay. And then in Washington County in Potosi, we did a similar headquarters building like in Johnson County where it replaced their main house. This building was about 20,000 square feet. There were 4 ambulance bays, which the ambulance bay portion of the building was actually a metal building, and then the rest of it was wood construction. There were crew quarters, training rooms, offices.
One aspect of that project, the Washington County building, is we started off with a metal building for the vehicle bay, but then to give it a little bit more of an architectural appeal and a little more character, we pitched the roof a little bit higher slope, so it looked a little bit less like a traditional metal building. And then we added some stone cladding on the front and on the sides to give it a little bit more character. So approach we take with all of our clients is to focus on three aspects of design. On target is a reference to understanding what your needs are, what your scope is. It means building a consensus. It means figuring out, if you're a diverse group of people, it means getting together with you and finding out what are your interests. It also means putting them in the context of, is this something an immediate need or is this a later need? And it also has to be balanced with other concerns. Of course, as we do a design, we have to understand schedule. So if there's a certain amount of scope that you need initially, it might indicate to us that we're going to be doing a phase 1 of a building or an initial design, and other work may be desirable in the future, but may not be part of the project. And of course, with all of our public clients, budget is obviously a super critical factor. The idea here is in this process is that we balance these 3 things out. If you may want everything, you may want it very quickly, and you may want it for very little money, but obviously we have to strike a balance between those 3 aspects and understand what is hierarchically more important and what is probably desirable, but maybe not something that you're able to afford at the immediate. The planning process is based on a lot of communication. We want to get together with your team. We encourage you to bring in all your people who are outspoken, who have creative ideas, people who are administrating, planning people, but also people who are women who are in trucks and have concerns with equipment and process. So we understand that their needs, like storage needs or something that they need to do when they get back to the house, and understand the full spectrum, not just the sort of the bigger ideas. So this means a lot of hands-on communication, and typically communication at this level means you start with broad ideas and general concepts, and you start working more and more to specific needs, and then try to put those into categories of immediate, midterm, or short-term needs.
On other projects, we even met with the crews and talked about, okay, if you get a call in the middle of the night, what does that process look like? And run through with the electrical engineer, you know, which lights do you need to turn on? What's the system gonna tell you? What's the easiest path you're gonna take? All that kind of stuff, just walking through it and really planning it all out so that you don't get into the building and 6 months later, someone goes, why didn't somebody put that outlet 3 foot higher and charge my radio or something? So it's working through all those little details through.
One of the things, tools that we use is when as we develop a more specific design for the building, we might take a typical room, say, for example, if it's a dorm room or sleeping room, or it's going to be an office or a training room or kitchen, you know, dining facility. We will actually show you a plan of just that room. We'll show you how does the furniture fit in the room and what are outlets and what is the lighting. And we create this as a design set of plans. The idea is we want you to sign off on a lot of the specific detail and make sure you understand so there's no question of communication. We also sometimes put this into a list of what are the attributes we share with our engineers. So we talk about what are the plumbing needs in that room or mechanical needs that might be special, electrical and lighting needs. So that becomes an agreement that we have, you know what we're doing, and then we turn to our engineers and we tell them what we're expecting in each of those rooms. It's kind of a way of us, before we actually have a building set of plans, we have a set of these details that we share with you. And then essentially, doesn't mean you can't change it, but there is a sort of buy-off where you agree, yes, we think that's the right scope for these rooms, and make sure that you guys are comfortable with as we move forward into more detail. This is sort of a scope tool that we use. This programming, we'll call them environmental sheets. Another aspect, of course, which I mentioned before, is time. So this is a chart. This is probably from another project. Looks like a school district project. And time goes across from left to right. And those big broad bars. We typically design our projects based on in the industry schematic design development and contract documentation. And each of those phases gets more and more specific as we move along in time. But as you go down the list vertically, we list other aspects. For example, we have to be meeting with the city. We have to engage structural. We have to engage, get surveys. We have to get geotechnical reports. So each activity that we have to pursue, we list vertically, and we try to figure out when that activity is going to occur in the timeline of the design and how long its duration will going to be there. Because some of the aspects on the schedule are your tasks. You might have board meetings where you're going to have to approve something, or we're going to have to present to you, or you're going to have to approve a schedule or money. And so all the tasks that we think are going to happen will go on a vertical schedule, and then time moves from left to right. It's an idea of trying to put a picture of everything we're trying to accomplish to lead to a successful project. Once the project goes into construction, then typically our contractors develop an actual construction schedule, which shows them how different trades are going to come onto the site. At first, of course, they'll come in and they'll mobilize. They'll be moving earth. They'll be setting up fencing. One of the early things that happens on a construction project, as you guys may be familiar, is the people who are going to make the products or from whom they're going to buy the products create shop drawings or submittals. And for some items, like a window, for example, might have a very long lead. You got to order the windows really early on so you have it in time when you need the window. So one of the aspects of our work, once we've designed the building, is then helping the contractor manage the project once it's in construction, and make sure that as the building progresses and field conditions might be discovered. In your case, you don't have an existing building, it's going to be a new building, but there might be some unusual conditions in the ground, poor soils or something else that gets discovered, and we help to the contractor to try to stay on schedule, and we also work with you to interface so that you as the owner know what's happening on the project. So the construction schedules aren't designed by us, they become a tool that helps us guide through the actual construction process. And any process that drives another process is called a critical path, and that tells you when you're going to finish the building. Some tasks don't affect the end of the building, they're off the critical path. But anyway, another tool, schedule, but during construction. So constantly, as we are working on is, we're just trying to define scope and we're working with a schedule, but as we go along, we also have to constantly crisscross back and forth between budget and scope. And that, those two are gonna be, typically time is not a factor here, but in this case, we're trying to figure out what we can include in the building based against your owner's scope. Now, one of the tools we can use is monitoring, and we can go to you and say, look, it doesn't look like we can afford this, but what we do sometimes is we establish what are called add alternates. So we have a base project that we know you absolutely want to build, but then there's some, well, we'd like to have this, or we'd like to have a better finish, or maybe some aspect or some piece of equipment is going to be more desirable. We'll put that in the drawings, we'll design it, but it's an add alternate, meaning when we open the bids, we can see what it is, and if you can afford it, you might go ahead and accept it, but if we can't, then we know we have a base building design. This is a way of not abandoning something when we're not sure if we can afford it. It's a way of trying to design it, and with the hope that if the bidding comes in favorable, you'll be able to accommodate that within your project scope.
So what can you expect from our team? Personalized services, we realize every client is different, so our services are different for every client. Our questions are different for every client. Specific designs that fit your ambulance district's needs. We realize, of course, again, every client is different. You may need some large living room because the crew really needs it with dimming switches or something, whereas another one hasn't asked for it. So it's just asking those questions of you all to figure out what the building really needs to be. And a collaborative planning and design process. We really view ourselves as a member of your guys' team. So we're very collaborative in our approach to everything. An open communication. You may get tired of us asking you questions, but we'll always ask you. That's a little bit about us. Any questions?
On your Washington ambulance, you had a training center there, was that strictly internal within the ambulance district, or was it associated with the local college?
So they, from what I understand, they run it, but they also offer like CPR classes or other ambulance districts go there. I've just seen it advertised with Missouri Ambulance Association, what they're doing and stuff, and they'll hold it there. That room is a really large room, but it has a folding partition in it so that they can make it smaller for different uses.
They created scenarios where they might have.
Well, Johnson County.
Oh, that's right, Johnson County.
Right. And we're actually working on, total side note, on Jefferson College has a project for a new law enforcement academy and EMT paramedic program, and we're working on a building for them right now. So it's been interesting to see what the training that goes on at the college level and then how that was translated into the training facilities. Because I know in Potosi, they didn't have another district that had a big enough space close enough. So now they have that to be able to use, but I'm sure that Jefferson College has a lot of the same uses too.
So you all help with the recommendation for a contractor?
So everything's publicly bid, and then we'll go through the bids with you guys and look at them and, you know, make sure that everything's there, and there's a checklist that they have to check off on, you know, they have the bonding, they've read all the addendums, or, you know, and you can call around and check references too, I can say, because it's always the.
We assist with helping to get interest with general contractors. We also typically submit documents to plan rooms, which I'm sure you're familiar with, so that other subcontractors and other people can get access to documents. These days, pretty much everything is done electronically, which is fine. I'm sure it actually makes things easier. Obviously, we'll also be interfacing with any authorities having jurisdiction, which would be county, city, whatever authorities, fire districts. We deal with.
We also can write up the advertisements bid and coordinate that.
Right. And of course, then we are typically there at public bid openings and read that off, codify all the information, put it in some kind of an organizational chart that allows you to look at, for example, what was the base bid, what was the alternate. Sometimes on a bid project where you have alternates, somebody might be low on a base bid, but if the funding is such, the alternate, they might be high and they're not as desirable. So sometimes depending on if you use alternates, the final selected general contractor could switch, you know, depending on what you're.
And our services run all the way through construction. So we do all the construction administration, we do all the punch lists at the end. We come back, do post occupancy, and we do another walkthrough before everything goes out of warranty. We save a bunch of stuff that's a year warranty, we'll walk through, have you had any leaks in the roof, have you had any flooring problems, all that kind of stuff, and we follow up with the contract. No question.
Your fee structure is a lump sum plus a la carte, how does this work?
So most of the time we do a percentage, but sometimes we have done,
Construction.
sometimes we have done a lump sum. If the budget is clear, sometimes we found working with public clients is that they may go, okay, we have $2 million to spend. Well, then they may get something else and they want to add it in. So sometimes a percentage kind of covers all of those influxes or cost of it, I guess, but.
Does
But
does
we
that
work on lump
percentage
sum.
have a number?
Yeah, well, yes, so it sometimes depends on the size of the building, I will say this.
A range perhaps?
And renovation is more expensive percentage than new construction, so
Right,
that's a
but for a
factor.
new construction, probably around 6%. Maybe your clicker back since I apparently don't know how to work it. Don't
Any
hold that
other
against me.
questions?
Okay. All right,
Right,
Thank you all
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you all, nice to meet you.
Guess we're up.
You're up.
Okay. Well, obviously, we didn't realize there's gonna be this many people here, I didn't bring quite enough, but we did some literature to pass around, and we can share some of our projects that we've done. I'm Paul Bradshaw, and I've been I was a subcontractor for Morton Building for about 15 years, with overhead doors, and the last 17 years, I've been directly with Morton Buildings. So the last 30-some years, I've been involved with Morton Buildings. Tell you just a little bit about Morton Buildings. Morton Buildings was founded in 1903, so this is our 120th year as a company. Started out as an interlock and fence company, and then we started post frame, so we've been the leader in post frame since post frame construction started. In the last 6 years, we are 100% ESOP company now, all employee owned. So that's been a great thing for employees, and plus it keeps the employees more involved and care more about the company being employee owned. I'll let Phil is newer with Morton, and that's why I just kind of came to tell you a little more and.
I brought the guy with all the knowledge. Paul and I kind of roam around about half the state, pretty much, on the west side of the state. So it's me and him that take care of all the Morton buildings throughout the west side of the state, pretty much. So.
But if you look through some of our literature, I mean, we've done many projects like this. We've done many local projects. I'm newer to this area. I've spent several years managing an office for Morton, Mexico. And recently, in the last 18 months, I got 2 grandkids that live in Kansas City. So that brought me to that area. So I don't know specifics about every project that we've done, but I know we've done a nice project in Marshall that we did. That's actually in some of our literature. We did another project in Warsaw, probably in the last 6 or 8 years. I know when I was in Mexico, Missouri, we did a real nice project in New London that was a 3-bay facility and had sleeping quarters in it that we turnnkeyed that project. So Morton's going to have a little different approach than the other guys here, and I know this is the way they do it. It's a traditional way of doing things. But with Morton, and I guess the first question, is this project for sure gonna have to go out for bid? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of changes things with us a little bit, because typically on a lot of projects that we do, we'll have a design build phase. And what we do, we gather information from you all, and we try to design the project around your budget. And you tell us what you need, and then we come back to you and tell you what we can do.
with that process, it kind of eliminates sometimes a lot of time by doing it that way, because, you know, when you have an architect firm, they're gonna design something and it's gonna put it out for bid, and it may come in double what your budget is, and then you're at that point starting the whole process over and trying to still get your project done. With us, we have architects on staff, it's called our that do not work, that work directly with Morton. They're under a different umbrella at our corporate office, but we can get them involved in the project and, like I said, help design specifically what you need. And then, you know, what we'll do for you up front, I mean, we can gather more information on what your project looks like, and we can do just a simple drawing. And at that point, we would just give you a budget number where we think this building will come in, because we build these buildings all over the country. And we have enough, we can gather enough information that we could probably get you within probably 10% of the overall cost, plus or minus, depending on what the scope of work is. And at that point, we give you kind of where you think it's going to be, and you say yes or no. And at that point, you haven't really spent any money at that point to kind of get you an idea of what the project's going to cost. Morton, we will be a all wood structure. In your architecture, we were talking earlier with the wood structure, you're able to do steeper wood pitches, give a lot more architect design. With our type of construction too, it's very well insulated. We probably have one of the best insulation packages in the business. And so your heating and cooling costs would be very minimal. But like I said, you know, we'll have a different approach, you know, if it is going to have to go out for bid. So one thing that we have done in the past, you know, if you have chosen an architect and you really feel like Morton's the way to go, we can get with that company and help write the specs of our type of materials that we use, because as far as the construction materials, we use all 26 gauge commercial steel, and we use all stainless steel fasteners. So if we get that spec'd out from the architect from the get-go, that's going to level the playing field. Then you've got another builder that's using 29 gauge steel, which is about 30% less steel. And we'll specify our FloorFlex paint system, so that way you're getting the best quality paint that's available. And so if we help write the specs, it creates you getting the exact same product from whatever builder you choose. But yeah, we do have one thing I didn't mention was Morton Buildings. And with Morton, we will go, you know, we'll handle the design process. We have all of our own crews. So you're not going out and picking a builder. You know, when you choose Morton, you get all of our own crews. They're all employee owned. And we'll have our subcontract team. So you're going to have pretty much a one source stop with Morton Buildings. But like Phil said, with our structures, you'll have a 50-year snow load warranty, unlimited weight. You'll have a 35-year warranty on our paint system. You'll also have a 5-year unlimited wind warranty. That includes tornadoes. So all of our warranties are all through Morton Buildings. There's no pass-through warranties. And so if you have any of those type of issues, like I said earlier, we've been in business since 1903, and we have to stand behind our warranty. We've been in business too long to go out of business and start back up with a different name.
Where are you all located out of?
We're out of the Chillicothe office. Where we're out of. Yep. So
How long have our crew's been, how many years experience on our crews?
our local crews there at Chillicothe, we've got 2 4-man crews, and there's probably 175 years experience with those 2 crews doing the same thing every day.
They stick around for a little while.
So
Where is this one located?
that building's actually in Marshall.
It's in Marshall.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go look at that.
I have not, like I said,
Do you remember what it cost?
I could find that out for you, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It's been several years ago that that was built. I had another sales consultant that I've known for years that was in charge of that project. But to say I was involved in that, I wasn't. But yeah, that was real close by.
Are those pull-through bays? Are they back-end bays?
I believe they're back in based, but I'm not 100% sure.
So all that building in that picture is 3,800 square feet?
What's that?
That says that building is 3,800?
I think that's a misprint.
I would think it was.
Yeah, I think that's a misprint.
Maybe they got the 3 and 8.
Yeah, I think that's a misprint.
Yeah, it's 83.
I was gonna say, if you'd like any of those in the brochure and whatnot, we can pull plans.
We got copies of every
Yeah.
project that we've ever done, and that might help you all too. If you see something that, if we get kind of narrowed down what you're looking for, there's a project I know through our company that we've done similar. You can, we can pull the pricing on it and say, hey, this was built 2 years ago and this is what it cost. And, that'll kind of help you,
That would be a big help.
yeah, to kind of get to that, and like the other guys that were speaking earlier, I mean, things have changed a lot in the last couple of years, but we have project managers that's what they do. I mean, they have means books that we can get you pretty close by going off the existing project that we've done to kind of give you an idea of what today's cost is. And by doing that, I mean, it really speeds up the process. And if we come back and say, hey, this project right here was $2 million, and I read in your notes that you're hoping to spend, am I correct, $1 million? Is that?
That was a pipe dream.
Okay, that made me a little nervous, but I see that. I like
Your basic shell, if you're putting up just utility buildings, what's the cost per square foot right now on that?
Get that.
That's a hard question too, because there's just so many different options in.
I understand
that
gravel floor, just the outside. No
Well, if
concrete,
you just want a gravel floor and just.
I'm just wondering what-
A machine shed, the storage
Machine
tractor.
shed, how much per square foot for?
$20.
machine shed? $20, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's gonna be on the low end with one door in the end wall and one walk door, but that's about what that'll be. But like I said, that's not anywhere what you all are thinking about
Infection
building.
control purposes, concrete floor.
What's that?
Concrete floor, not gravel floor.
What's concrete cost? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I
It's
wanna
up to
know the
almost, well, that's what I'm saying, it's up to almost $200 a yard.
Concrete right now for a
170
6-inch
or
floor with a 1/2-inch free rod and rock underneath it with a trowel finish is somewhere around that $8 a square foot. And unfortunately, this will all be a prevailing wage project with the funds coming in, so that number's probably a little on the low side.
But if we could get, particularly this one in Marshall, something like that, and give us.
We can give you an idea.
We can give you an idea of what something would cost, and like I say, we have a different approach. And that way, I know they're throwing out a 6% number, but you spend say it's a $2 million project, you spend $120,000 and you realize it's not what you do. So we can kind of give you some options this is kind of what this will cost, and I'm not an expert on this, but there are other ways to create a project like this if you're wanting to create some financing as far as municipal leases and stuff like that, where a project like this would not have to go out for bid. And we can explore that if that's an avenue at all.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to. Other commitments.
See ya.
See you.
At one time, we were looking at what, 6,000 square foot as a target.
65%.
Okay.
So, we did a quick math of 6,000 times square footage and see if we can be anywhere near that. I don't know.
You mean as far as you didn't think you'd be anywhere near that $1 million?
No. I'm just saying, like the Marshall building, if you said $200 a square foot is what that cost, with 6,000, all of a sudden, or if it's 300, or if it's whatever, then we have more of a.
Yep. Yeah. And I talked to a project manager because I knew we were coming over here, and I wasn't aware of this meeting till Thursday or Friday. He's been in meetings all week, so we haven't had ample time to really prepare. But I did make some phone calls this afternoon, you know, this all depends on, you know, what kind of exterior finishes you want, site work. We haven't seen the site or anything, so we're kind of coming into this blind. But to give you some ideas, I would say the living area, sleeping quarters, and that area, you're probably gonna be in that 275 square foot. The apparatus bay, depending on different factors, what all is included, but you're probably gonna be in that $150, $175 square foot for that space. So, I mean, that'll kind of give you kind of a range. If you're looking at 6,000 square feet and you're doing, you know, in my opinion, what you're looking for, if you're really looking for, you know, 6,000, 6,500 square feet, you're probably 1.5, 1.7 in that range would be my, if we keep it somewhat, you know, modest.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks for your time.
Yeah,
Well, you're sure welcome.
It's really interesting.
So,
I was gonna say managing the project, it's.
yeah,
us and
on a job like
designated
this,
project
we'll have
manager.
a guy on site every day that will be overseeing all the subcontracting, and we will manage the project from start to finish. That this will be his, this is where he'll live for however long it takes. You know, this project like this is probably, I would guess from start to finish, just an idea, is probably a 7 to 9 month project from, you know, groundbreaking to finished project. So,
Thank you.
you're sure welcome. You bet.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll hear back from you guys sometime.
Safe drive home.
Short trip back to Liberty. Thank you.
They do have a bay going back. Okay, I remember that. I was. Hey. How's it going?
Good.
You ready?
We're ready.
I'm Rob Rawlings. I think most of you know me. I don't think I've met your chair here, so nice to meet you. Darren Broadfoot. You guys have all seen it, haven't you? Did my wife say that she wanted me to go through that? Because I'm honestly not going to use that unless you guys have some questions on some of those. And what I want to talk to you about, and you kind of probably expect this, is the advantages of local. These are all great guys. I think you'd be happy with any of them. They're all good firms. But nobody's going to be more responsive than we are. I think you know that. You're going to see that we're the most capable, not only for vetting local contractors, but local sites. You know, we've been here, my family's been here for 30 years, been practicing in town for 30 years. We've been on our own for about 18 years. Darren's not quite there yet, but he will be. You know, your fees that you pay us are going to stay in the community. Not trying to waste your time here, but you know, everybody that's here has the same education as we do. I mean, we've suffered from that local expert thing before. Same continuing education. It's a matter of, you know, how many facilities have you done of this nature? You know, we've all got handfuls of these. At the end of the day, you know, what I really want to tell you guys and instill in you guys is that, you know, we're going to be here. We know the area. I think there's nobody that's going to have a better relationship with contractors around here than we are. You're going to see us in the grocery store. You know, we're not going anywhere. So you kind of guarantee that you're going to get a level of service because of that. I did want to rattle off a couple of things. You know, we don't put signs up on our projects, but I was going through a list of things earlier today, and in the time that we've been here in town, we've done almost 800 projects, And just under 400 of those were in the Pettis County area, which is kind of hard to believe, but we've done 62 projects out at State Fair alone, at State Fair Community College. We've done 27 projects for local government, county and city. That's counting a couple of things we've done for you guys in years past. 11 projects out at State Fair. We've got projects out there now. Just in Sedalia alone right now, we've got in design, we're working on the new BTC Bank project, the new 200 resident room, State Fair Community College Residence Hall. That one's hoping to bid in mid-December, I think. We're on schedule for that. Thompson Strip Center, the new strip center. We're at State Fair working on grandstand renovation design. We're working with Pettis County right now on their annex building. They're looking at totally redoing that inside and out. City of Sedalia street projects and housing. And under construction, we've got Nucor Warehouse, Nucor Harris Rebar Fab Shop, Simcoe Fab Shop, and the Boulevard Apartments that Russell Childress has going there by State Fair. So, we've got a lot of things going, and we don't consider ourselves experts in any one area. We're very generalists. And by that, I mean, when we moved to town and decided to open our own firm after working for a firm here in town, you can't, we wanted to focus in outstate Missouri, and, you can't really do that and only do healthcare or only do schools. So we've kind of dabbled in about everything.
Sir, multitude of clients,
Any given year, our biggest book of business might be schools, or it might be nursing homes, or it might be offices. It seems here lately, our biggest book of business has been private stuff, so we're talking apartments last year. This year, our largest job is obviously going to be that State Fair Residence Hall. It's a roughly a $15 million construction project. So, we don't claim to be experts in any one field, but I would tell you that very confident that the design team we've put together is going to provide you all the expertise you need and get you the best project for the cost. Our fees are competitive. I would be surprised if anybody can come in here and beat our fees. But I don't really think, our fees are such a small part of the overall jobs that we do. It's kind of one of those things that there's wiggle room there, but the cost of the project are really what's getting up there. As you guys probably are aware, we start projects now. If you came and asked me for a square footage cost for a building like this, new, you're north of $200 a square foot now, just starting off. I don't ever tell anybody that, you can do that for $125 still. It just doesn't happen. So you got to be realistic when you're jumping into these things to know where it is. And I think we're pretty good locally here about getting close on estimates, just knowing what the local market can support. I think you guys know Theron. I actually haven't worked with any of you on this board. I worked with everybody on the last, what I would consider the original board. But I think Theron has done some stuff for you. I did want to let you speak a little bit.
Yeah, we met probably 2 years ago, and Eric and Jamie, and we just kind of went through what was, coming up now, and just, walking through some feasibility stuff. And I want to speak to the local aspects. So definitely always seems to be good, but my thing is there's no way that they're going to have the knowledge on the ground that we would bring. We've got, we're familiar with the entire surrounding area. We have information pretty much spread out throughout the community, and that all plays into, knowing what's going on, how to make properties work, how to develop them. We know if there's anything missing. We know how to extend something to get it built, team up with people, builders, of all kinds.
Utilities.
Yeah, we just have that.
Contacts with all the utility companies.
And that really plays across the entire process to have that knowledge. So I can go out of town somewhere 2 hours away, and I can certainly get the job done, but it's not going to be the same type of knowledge. So that's I think, just stating that obvious fact, but it is an important fact. And I've actually worked with KRJ on JCAD projects. I did the civil design. I was, contracting work at the time. with Grant Engineering, but still under Broadfoot Engineering, but so I wasn't the engineer with record, but I did all the actual civil design for it, worked with Romy and Jamie and even Romy's husband, Tim Elk, and that's fine. So I can kind of understand like the ambulance specifically, like what we experienced and what we brought. They looked for a local person. You know, we're local to Warrensburg, and that served just fine. I work with, Warrensburg all the time. So I don't know if they're planning on teaming up and what their, plan is for local civil. I didn't even reach out to them, to be honest. I'm kind of just interested in this team right here. But the point is I know what that experience was like. They utilized the local factor. I'm guessing that they're going to try to do the same. Well, we're already teamed up here on the building and civil, both sides, architect and civil. That's a pretty good setup, I think. So that's pretty much all I had.
I always like to end by saying, we want to do your work. I mean, we want to be your go-to. When we work with school districts, when we work with church boards, and with other entities, we like to call ourselves a resource. And I know you guys have enough things going on, both new and existing things. We feel like we're an underutilized resource for you guys. So when you have issues that come up, we want to be there. You could call us to ask questions that have nothing to do with the project we're working on, have nothing to do with needing a fee out of it, those kinds of things. We want the relationship, and just be honest, we would like to do this job. I mean, it's just that simple. We're local, and we want to participate with you guys. We're confident we could do a good job for you. We're confident that nobody's going to give you better service than we are. And I can sit here and show you pretty pictures of 500 projects that we put together, but I've been on your side of the table before, and it doesn't really matter. What matters is what we can do for you guys for the project you got coming up, hopefully multiple projects you got coming up. I'm not even sure what your project is that you got coming up or how you're going to go about it, but I know we'd like to be a part of it. And we will do everything in our power to be open, communication wise, to do what we say, meet deadlines, and we're very open about costs. I mean, we tell you what we think things are going to be. We don't sugarcoat it. And when things change, we let you know about it. So we try to make sure that we don't have any more surprises than there have to be. Construction's tough. It's not an exact science. We don't control all of that, but I think we're as good as anybody out there. And I think part of that is that the relationships we have with contractors around here, they trust us. They know we shoot squarely. You're not, that we're easy to work with, fair back and forth. So that's kind of what we've got. That's what we're selling. Hopefully you guys have some questions for us.
I guess number one is the fee structure. Do you do percentage or do you?
We can do anything you want. Typically, it's easiest for us to talk about in the initial stages that I usually tell people, you can count on an X, for a certain group of services, you can count on it being in a fee range of such and such percentage of construction costs. A lot of our clients prefer that we fix that fee at some point in time. And there's never been a job out there that we've been a part of that once we know what the scope is. So if you decide, you come to me and you say, okay, we're going to spend $1 million. And once we know that, once we know what the scope is, we know we can meet that, we'll fix our fee. And that way, if bids come in 10% high and you can find a way to finance that job at 10% higher, we don't punish you by tacking our percentage onto it. And a lot of people are like, well, it's more, no, we signed on to do a job. It doesn't, at that point, we're doing it for a fee. So we can set up the fee however you want. So it's whatever you're most comfortable with. In the early stages, we're going to tell you a percentage that you should anticipate so you can plug it into your budget so you know where that's at. But if it helps out, we're more than willing to lock that into a number. And then, as a matter of fact, normally what I tell people is you can lock that in. And if it's under by 10%, we'll give you that credit based on what the fee originally was percentage wise, but we won't punish you the other way, but we will reward you. So nobody's going to beat that.
Hard to go wrong on a not to exceed number.
It is. And the other thing you won't see from us, and you can talk to any of our clients, there's always problems during construction. You're going to encounter changes. There's going to be things, unless you came to us and you changed from a a 7,000 square foot project, and then in the middle of it, you say, let's add 2,000 more square feet to that, I'm gonna charge you for that. But if we start making changes, whether it's us, you guys, unforeseen things, we don't charge for those changes. So, we always, reserve the right to say within reason. But if there's never been a job we've done that didn't have something during the process that got revised, not only for the better, but you never can predict who's going to make that revision, where it's going to come from. But it's not worth our time to nickel and dime you for every one of those. It's actually easier just to do it and move on. That's kind of the way we feel about code compliance. That's kind of the way we feel about just about everything. We're not going to charge you for phone calls. We're not going to charge you for anything. Our fee is what the fee is, and that's it. The only thing we ask you to pay for is prints. So when we print stuff off, when people print plan sets off, not any preliminary stuff, that's a charge that usually we just invoice you guys directly for that from our print shop. That's the only reimbursement you'll see in that regard.
And I don't know, like, are we still entertaining the idea of 2 possible locations for site feasibility, like having to explore the college campus and to the west there? Okay, well, the only.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I think we're just looking at.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I was just curious.
We need the 3 acres.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah. So anyway, I was just gonna say, like, we're familiar with that entire area. And anyway, if it was still, something that you were exploring, that would play into it, what we could, give to that, to give you the recommendations. And anyway, but it sounds like we've got that where you want to go with it here to the west.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've got a good relationship with State Fair Community College, but you don't need that.
Yeah, I was
We'll
gonna
hold
say.
that in our pocket.
Yeah, right.
So.
Well, that landmass spot wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. It was gonna be tight and limiting in the future.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us. If you have
Absolutely.
any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. Like I
Yep.
said, we'd love to do your work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Pettis County Joint Communication.
Good evening. How is everybody?
Good enough.
Every time I come in here, the room is set up a little bit differently, so I never know where to lay everything out. And I wanted to ask you guys, would it be more convenient if I came in more often to give updates or anything? Any preference if I were to come in more often than just once a year?
Good question for the chief.
I think we're good down here, unless something big changes.
Okay. All right. So this evening, we will be discussing the annual review and budget proposal for 2024. And I've got a few things to go over. If I can get my notes out here. All right, I'm going to be reviewing our staffing training activity, and we have a budget proposal as well as what we're planning to do in 2024 and 2025. As far as staffing, the state of Missouri declared dispatchers first responders this year as of August 28th. So we are considered first responders officially. And the best thing that I get to report is that we are now fully staffed for our current staffing levels. We are not fully trained. Right now, I'm at an 80% trained level. I have the remaining trainees scheduled to be released from training by the end of the year. So that's really exciting to be able to push all of those additional personnel out onto the floor. Of the staff that I have approximately 75% of them with 5 or more years of service. And I've got a handful that have 2 or more years. The rest of those are going to be fresh to the industry, and we are providing them with their on the job as well as their academic training. As far as our training program goes, having the deputy director this year and assigning her the training coordinator position has been instrumental in being able to make this a reality, because we were able to onboard and train them much faster. I've got 3 operators that came from other neighboring agencies, and they said that the training that we are providing here surpasses what they have received at the agencies that they started with. As far as our activity, this is the calls that we have answered year over year. Right now, 2023 is on track to exceed 2022. The red line is specific 911 calls, and the black line is non-emergency or administrative calls. We average anywhere between 8 to 15 calls per hour. Too far. That's looking at the same information month over month. The 2 darker lines on the bottom are the 911 lines, and the 2 lighter lines at the top are the administrative lines. Question?
If I make a non-emergency call at 6 a.m. to 826-8100, and then I had 911, is that one of those calls?
If you call 826-8100, that's going to come in on the black line. I would say someone answering the line 911, it's the same operator, it's the same.
Well, I say emergency, whatever, it's the same operator. Does that count as an emergency call?
No,
For
it
your
would be
data?
on the black line at that point. It would be considered an administrative line.
Because that's where it always rings through. If you call that time of day, you know, to get.
Yeah.
Even
All
though
right.
it's not emergency. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, we can receive emergency calls on the non-emergency lines. We do it all the time, and same operators have to take the same calls.
That's why, since it rolls over, I
Yep.
didn't know if that counted the emergency or not. Okay.
All right, looking at the calls for service year over year, broke out by discipline. This is what it looks like for law, fire, and EMS. And then we have agency specific. The Sedalia Police Department and the Pettis County Sheriff's Office are obviously the 2 highest agencies as far as activity goes. I've got the Sedalia Fire Department, Pettis County Fire up there as well. I try to keep you guys in green, but now on that screen it looks more, that's a weird shade of green, I'm sorry. The other that you see there are calls handled specifically by dispatch, where we had to refer them to another entity, or it was something that we handled internal, or very small cases of a couple of the volunteer fire departments. Our average answer and duration times, there's a national expectation and standard established by the National Emergency Number Association that all 911 lines be answered in under 5 seconds. We are well within that time frame. The non-emergency answer point is expected to be between 7 and 10 seconds. So again, we're also under that time frame as well. There is no national standard for a duration of a phone call. I just like to include that information so you can see how long it takes us to process the call. I know that a lot of people that we hear out in the public is that it takes too long to talk to somebody. It takes too long to talk to somebody, but we're only on the phone a couple minutes to make it through. All right. Any questions about activity or call volume before I get into 2024? All right. So for 2024, some of the things that we're going to be working on for 2024 as an agency is the NECMEC certification. NECMEC is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Adam Walsh, this is the Adam Walsh Foundation. They actually provide certification to first responder agencies. if they're ready and able to work a missing child case. It's a very specific training and certification process to go through, and we are actually mailing off the application. Right now, we're slotted for December 1st to mail that off, and we should have that received sometime in 2024. We're also doing the same thing with our training program. The work that Kelly has put into the training program this year has been astronomical, and we've seen great improvements across both experienced and new staff in what we're doing. And we're presenting our training program to the Association of Public Safety Telecommunication Officers to certify the program as being appropriate. We're also going to be pursuing Next Gen 911 grant funding if possible. The Next Gen grant, or the Next Gen 911 grant cycle opened this fall with the state of Missouri. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. We also have a goal for having 100% of our dispatchers certified as CIT operators, and we're looking at assigning one dispatch negotiator per shift. Right now, we have at least one peer support team member on every shift, and we have one queue personnel on every shift, but we would like to expand that across greater numbers.
Help me out, queue personnel.
Quality control. We subscribe to a quality control program where 10% of all of our calls, both 911 and non-emergency, are pulled for random quality assurance review. We are looking for the speed in which they answer the call, gather the information, and dispatch responders, as well as keeping up with industry standards, expectations, and customer service levels. So our 2024 budget. I'm actually going to be showing you two budgets. Both of these budgets have been presented to the 911 board. Both of them have received approval to present to everyone for consideration this year. Both budgets are going to be reflecting the same values for salaries, wages, and benefits. And the only differences between the budgets are going to be specifically related to that Next Gen 911 grant that I was referencing. The proposed expenditures for salaries, this is an increase over 2023. The increase that we're looking at is approximately $84,625 over 2023. What I'm asking for in that increase is 2 additional operators. With adding 2 additional operators to our staff and adjusting the scheduling of what we're doing, I can have up to 6 operators on duty at a time. And that would actually drive down the answer time of the call. It would drive down the processing time of that call, while increasing the communication with responders over the radio. We were able to decrease the shift differential for 2024 from 2023 by taking those positions and sliding them up into the day and splitting that shift differential between a mid shift and an overnight shift. So that's differences in the shift differential. The benefits themselves, there's no change in the specific value of the healthcare benefits this year. However, the increase that is reflected there from 2023 is due to the addition of the new operators that I'm requesting. The wage increase also reflects a salary increase for all of the operators, ranging between 1.5 to 3%, depending upon their longevity within the agency. The operators themselves have not received a wage increase since August of 2022, so they are obviously expecting a wage increase of some sort this year. So this particular line item is at 73% of our overall budgeted expenditures, and that is within the industry norm. Most 911 centers will have their budget set at approximately 80% of their overall budget for wages and benefits. For supplies and equipment, our training costs have increased for 2024, and that is directly related to the training costs associated with the International Academy of Emergency Dispatchers programs that they are required to participate in. I have no control over that increase amount. Our telephone services have increased as well considerably. The reason why they have increased considerably is because we have a redundant copper line coming into the center that acts as a backup to our phone lines, and those particular lines have tripled in cost. I have attempted to negotiate with AT&T to bring that down, and so far I've been unsuccessful. I'm currently evaluating some alternative solutions, such as moving those lines to a cellular option. However, the technology side of that to make it work, there's a little bit of a struggle to make that work yet. And I don't want to cut it over until I can have someone say it actually works. Our contractual services have increased considerably from 2023, and this is due to the fact that our CallWorks and Motorola radio systems have entered into the maintenance contract phases of their life cycle, and we are now required to pay $37,000 annually for CallWorks and $67,000 annually for the radio maintenance. Those fees are outside of my control. There is no negotiation with that. The only option we would have would be to not pay them. And if we don't pay them and something breaks, we are 100% liable for the costs to restore them to operational standards. All right. With our proposed expenditures, it brings our total up to 1.5 for the year. That is up from 2023. The increase is related to the maintenance costs and adding the 2 new operators. Our current revenues, there have been no increases in revenues since 2020. There's been no increase for 3 years. This is what we're currently looking at. And rolling over 457 from the current year into 2024 will actually create a negative balance of $36,000. The 911 board has recommended that we ask for an increase in contributions of $46,000 per contributing entity. With the increase in revenues, with the increase in revenues, that will give us a positive end of year at 2024, while also establishing a cap fund and a cash reserves line. Both of those 2 line items are important because right now we don't have anything. All of our equipment is at least 3 years old, and in the 911 life cycle, equipment should expect to live 5 to 7 years. So we are going to have to start looking at replacing the equipment. So that is with the base budget. We're going to talk about Next Gen 911 just a little bit. Next Gen 911 grant. The Next Gen 911 grant has been provided by ARPA funds through the state of Missouri, and it came to the state of Missouri at a 50-50 match. The 911 Oversight Board for the state of Missouri has offered to match an additional 40 on that. So that reduces it to a 90-10 match. Whatever our project may be, we only have to match 10% of that project. What Next Gen 911 is, our current infrastructure established in the 60s for 911. The infrastructure that brings us the 911 calls was built in the 60s for landline telephones. It was not built to handle the traffic from all of the mobile devices, the cellular devices, and all of the other devices that can contact 911. It has no capacity for data. It has no capacity for any kind of location information beyond a wireless call. We have to do some magic tricks to make it work. There's errors in it. Things go wrong. There's very, very strict limitations into what we can and cannot do. I can tell you that they no longer make the equipment to repair it if it breaks. They move it to another line. And then that line is going to get congested. And then that line is going to break. They're very expensive to maintain. Right now, our 911 lines, by population, we have to have 5 lines minimum. And each line costs approximately $3,000 to maintain a month. They're very challenged in disaster recovery. If something were to happen to those 911 lines anywhere coming into our center, then they will route the traffic around to other places, and it can make it very difficult to get that working, and it can take some time. So the alternative and the solution to that is what's called an EZNet. It's a network of networks. It's built to hold our current technology. It increases our technical capabilities in that we can create a geofence around Pettis County. And in creating that geofence around Pettis County, it reduces our transfers in and out. We're creating a barrier so that those calls that come in here randomly that actually are in Johnson County, they don't come here because we built a wall around us. We have flexibility in routing. And in that flexibility, it will take the time of a phone call to reroute those calls. And I can then reroute them to any device that can accept a phone call. It doesn't have to be a dedicated 911 line. The costs are stabilized. They're contracted in 5-year terms. They're more efficient, and they have the cellular redundancy built in specifically for the 911 lines. So what actually happens is that the disaster recovery is going to be only in an evacuation mode. Because I've already got the fiber lines and I've already got the cellular built into the system. The only time I'm going to have to reroute my calls is if we have to actually physically evacuate the building for some reason. With an EZNet, we can also do text to 911. I know that I have seen a lot of comments through the public and through the community looking for text to 911 services. Right now, with our current infrastructure, it is physically impossible for us to do that. As far as data locations on an EZNet, right now with our current technology, if someone calls 911 from a cellular device, sometimes we can get them to about 30 feet, sometimes. That's with everything working perfectly. With an EZNet, we can get them down more like 10 to 15 feet whenever we locate them. With our next gen call handling, which is going to be included in the grant service that we are considering. It is a hosted call solution. Updates are included, meaning we're not going to get trapped into a maintenance contract 3 years from now. It's maintained by AT&T. Relocation assistance, if I do need to evacuate the building, I can relocate to any center in the state of Missouri that has the system, if I need to. But because we would be moving to an EZNet, I don't even have to do that. I can just transfer everything to a phone. Costs are maintained and held down. They're contracted out for 5-year terms. And it's all part of a package deal. So increasing technology, increasing services to the community, and increasing services to responders based upon the quality of the information that we're getting. So this is what I'm looking for. There's no federal mandate that someone has to have this at this point. There's no one saying you have to have it. Now, I will not say that 5 years from now, there's not gonna be a mandate that you have to have it.
10% of what? Value of the grant for, I mean,
The value of the project,
what's the cost of the project?
I'll show you. What this is going to cost us, what it's going to do, it will lower our contractual services because we're moving to the hosted call service. That's eliminating that $37,000 that we have to pay for CallWorks. We no longer have to pay that. It's decreasing our telephone lines and our telephone costs because everything's going to be inside of our network. I'm eliminating some of those very expensive lines coming into us. What it will cost us, the grant match line, $80,000 for 5 years. That is the 5-year total right there. I have to show in my application that I can cover that $80,000. So I can't even apply for the grant unless I have a budgeted line item for it. So it does create its own line item as an expenditure.
But the bottom line is still roughly equivalent.
To what it was before. Where it gets a little crazy is in the revenues. With the grant award, we would be awarded $725,000. So it looks like revenue, a significant increase in revenue, but that 725 can only be applied to the grant items because of the restrictions of the allocation of that. So it looks like a significant increase, but it's not. So with the same $46,000 in contributions, what we would be able to do if we pursued the grant, still establish that 25,000 cap, 25,000 cash reserves. It does decrease our projected end of year going into 2025. But in 2025, that $80,000 that I've got for 2024, it's gone. It's not going to be there as an expenditure. But we're still holding down the phone. We're still holding down the contractual services. I know it's confusing. I had to review the grant information like 3 or 4 different times with my grant guy to figure out if I had it right. So with our revenues, I'm just going to go back to this one real fast. I do want to say that we are increasing the expected projection of the any device fee for 2024. It's been performing very well. We had it budgeted at $405 for 2023, and right now it's on track to close at about $420. So I'm comfortable increasing that to $415. Our statewide prepaid tax still is not performing the way that we had anticipated. For 2023, we had projected $27.5, and right now, I don't think it's going to make $25 for the year. So I know that asking for $46,000 is a lot. That is a very big ask. I do not ask lightly. However, with that, we're increasing staffing. For an additional $46,000, we would be able to add 2 new operators. We're increasing technology, services to the community, and our responders. I want to thank you for your time and commitment to public safety and our local responder network. Any questions?
How much money is available?
Right now, there's $18 million. However, there is 8 counties in the state of Missouri that have no 911 services, and they are coming together to form a regional center. And I know that they are going to be asking for about $6 million. And I know that they're going to be funded just because they have nothing right now. Yeah. They've got nothing and they're gonna be going to the top of the line. I will tell you that the vendor that we're looking at is AT&T. They offer a nationwide service of what we're looking for here. And they have the most affordable products of what we're looking for. They've been doing it the longest. They have the quickest deploy time. All of the other vendors that we have looked at have been anywhere between 18 to 24 months to deploy, and that they want to be paid now, but it's going to be 24 months before we get it. AT&T can give it to us in 6 months because they already have it built.
So currently we pay $150. So on your charts there with the $46,000, you show us paying $146,000.
196.
Yeah, I think you have a typo
I might.
right there. That is what
I do. I am so sorry.
Kinda changes the figures a little.
Does that change the bottom line too? Yes.
Well,
Let me
I
see.
don't know on this slide, but if you go back to your other revenue,
It was 146 on there too.
I didn't even get,
I think the total of that, the total probably.
I didn't total those. I hand typed them in, so.
Yeah, I think the total is still with that typo.
Yeah, here it
Yeah.
says 196.
Yeah.
Brian? Okay.
But you're done in the county 46,000, the city of Sedalia 46,000, the ambulance district 46,000.
Mhm.
Who's the other?
That's it.
That's it. Those
That's
are the only contributing
Yeah.
entities. So
Nothing from the volunteer fire department.
That's why the county pays their fee.
Okay, I'm with you.
So with,
Sheriff's office and that, right?
Yeah.
I think your totals are right, just at
Yeah.
the end of the slide.
I'll give this back to you, Ryan.
I had a question.
Yes,
You said for 5 years, the maintenance costs were included in the grant, right?
yes,
What are the maintenance costs after the 5 years per year?
city contracted is 5 years. I can't answer that question.
Is there a roundabout figure? What does it cost for 5 years
So right
that they're
now,
covered?
the way a EZNet is priced, it's priced on a per population base. So because our population fluctuates, I can't answer that question. Right now, every provider has a different fee source, and AT&T is $1.15. Let's see.
Yes. 6,000. A one-time pay for the grant increase, or is that an ongoing? That's ongoing. 5 years. That's where I thought it was.
Okay.
I'm sure that's right.
The current quote that I have per month is $3,000. And that would equal 7 cents per person at current population.
Okay.
So this 46,000 increase, is that 1 year only to cover this grant business, or is that ongoing? And if we don't get the grant,
The way the contracts are written, yes, it would be ongoing. Now, the 911 board is aware that this is not a long-term sustainable agreement with the contributing entities and any device fees. They are aware of that. There has been discussion to move to a alternative sales tax option. However, we are not in a timeline to put that on the ballot for this year. It would absolutely have to occur sometime next year, if that's something they're going to pursue. But that's at the discretion of the 911 board, not me.
Mhm. Interesting.
okay.
All right. Would you be in a position to vote this evening?
No.
All right. Well, I do want to thank you for your time, and I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you. We'll move on to the officers report, the CFO report.
Okay. Page 4 is the beginning of our report, sales tax receipts. You can see there for October, it's down dramatically. It's down almost 53,000 over last year, same period. I will tell you that they know there's some sort of an issue. They tell me the payment was correct and the report's wrong. I don't know about that, but that's what they're showing. So our report shows about $8,000 more is what we should have received. So they said they're gonna provide a corrected report. So I'll have to compare what they correct. They said it's all in motor vehicles, some issue with the motor vehicle account, so I don't know if that's the issue or not. I think there's some other tiny issues with this because that's a huge decrease for that period. But that takes us to being only at 3.1 million for the year, and only that's $23,503 over last year, which is only a 0.75% increase year over year. So I'm hoping that will reverse itself a little bit in November, but we'll have to wait and see there. Any questions under that? Okay, you guys have sat through a lot already, so I'm gonna just kind of skip over this. If you guys have any questions on the financials, please ask me, but I wasn't gonna go through page by page like I normally do. Are you guys okay with that? I don't wanna go page by page. Okay, I figured after all the presentations, you might want to move this along. If you go to page, not there yet, page 17, bank balances, same as always, meeting over meeting, or month over month versus year over year. Cash reserve chart, showing the same thing. Cash reserve analysis didn't change much month over month. Any questions on anything on the check register? You can see it starts to look like you are used to seeing it again, the bank fixed our connection finally, so I'm very happy about that. Page 25 is current bills due, and the details are 26 and 27. Any questions on any of those? If not, that is in my report.
Are there any questions for Jamie? If not, I would take a motion to receive the CFO report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I'd take a motion to approve payment of outstanding bills.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We'll move on to unfinished business, architect qualifications. Any further discussion on that?
I'd kind of like to go over some of these buildings that were discussed. I know, I don't know where Washington County is, but I saw it.
Same move.
I've been to JCAS facility. I actually work for Saline County Ambulance. Been there since the day they moved in. It's a nice facility. I kind of didn't work on it, so a little bit.
I've worked with facilities, and it's a nice place. I mean, it's straightforward, no second level or anything. It's just one level, and it's nice. With living room, the sleeping quarters, separate, one bed per sleeping quarter, so.
I'd like to get an idea and talk to the folks that were there, and they were building and see what kind of.
The Saline County thing, it'd be interesting to see how they negotiated that process with Morton Building.
Yeah, I'd like to see that one.
I really like the idea of the Morton, that they handle the contractors and everything.
Well, with Morton, the way I understand it, they're mainly, they are the only contractor.
That's it, yeah.
And I just can't help but thinking that they're gonna be by far the cheapest. But we don't have a design, so we don't know what we're pricing. You know, these other guys, I mean, you're talking about a lot of dollars. If we put a $2 million budget for our deal, you know, that's 6%. And I think that'll be the cheapest you're gonna get. But again, that's, but my thoughts are too, Martin Buildings aren't a local contractor. We've got one. But we've got to get a design, so we know what we're talking about. And myself, I like that Swain County one. That was a good looking one. And that would fit well out there. But it would be awful hard for me to vote for somebody out of the area if they're not just extremely cheap, and cheap don't really get you what you're after. You know?
Well, to your point, rather than cheap, if we said, look, we're gonna spend $2 million and they'll sit down and help develop the design, they'll do this, da, da, da. We may be getting more for the same money that way.
That's true.
And that's
what we're gonna have to do.
Be saving that 6%.
Well, yeah, absolutely, be saving that 6%, but they're willing to do the design to build thing, go, whatever they call that.
And I don't know for what it's worth, I think the warranty on this building, I don't know what, if you get an individual contract, I don't know what the warranty is like, but I think they had I think 30 years on something, and
She mentioned something about just a year warranty and stuff in the just in the building at all, didn't she?
Well, that's warranting their efforts, not the materials.
Okay.
When you buy the materials, they've got their own. You see those buildings all over the place.
Yeah, there are good buildings, no doubt.
They're pretty economic. As far as any other contractor's warranty, they gotta still be here 20 years from now.
yeah, sure.
So are we picking out a design, or what are we doing with this? How are we going?
We're just deciding, which really I think Roy and Flo should check them out, research them all. See how Saline County made that Morton thing work. Because obviously they've done it more than one place at their program.
I think Warsaw, they normally have to bid too, don't they? They would have to done something too, right?
Yeah.
So we can maybe talk to Nathan
here and see how that
Yeah.
went. I mean, I think it'd just be good to take a look and see. I mean, I didn't get, I like them all, so I don't know at this point. We got to figure out which.
What, some of these places, you ask them, what did you do that you wish you hadn't?
That's what I want. I want to know what kind of pitfalls they had, and how the entire process started to finish.
Well, that Johnson County one, Rawlings did that one, wasn't it? It wasn't Rawlings?
No.
No, it was like
The first one.
The second one.
The second,
Yeah.
So they've all done something
ARD.
for Johnson County, just different.
Rawlings did their non-Oscar station. Is the one that Rawlings did for Johnson County. Maybe the one that's the.
Yeah, it said that Johnson County and rehabbing their old headquarters.
HD did our fire department.
Well, one of their consultants did it, I think, is what it
Okay.
says, yeah.
So are we gonna pick one of those tonight or what?
No,
I think we ought to table it. I mean, that's my opinion.
I think Roy and Flo should research them all and see
Kind of reference check.
reference checks on all of them and see how the Morton thing worked.
Do some road trips.
See, Morton's, I mean, they talked about a different finance or different way of coming up.
Yeah,
with
they
the money.
said,
Well, that was a way of getting by.
Municipal lease is what they said.
And that might be how they get around
The bidding it all out, because
They're all in one.
Morton Buildings building it, paying for it, and you're leasing it. That was my understanding of what they were saying. They didn't explain it really well,
Kind
but
of a
that's my
lease,
guess.
kind of a lease purchase though.
That's my guess, but
but they're
It's
also
just a
totally
guess.
integrated from design to handing you the key.
If they do a lease. The lease thing, they can avoid
that's my
prevailing
guess.
wage.
But I don't know for a fact, what these other.
Yeah,
entities
that
have
is
done.
true too.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
Why don't you all work on that and come up with some. Review that meeting possibly. Any other questions on that architect one? If not, I'd take a motion to go into closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021, section 2.
so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Brown,
Yes.
Durkee,
Yes.
Graves,
Yes.
and Walker.
Yes.